Thanks for coming all the way.
LeWeb, thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
It's, yeah, you know, you're part of a crew at LeWeb.
This is my third time here.
Yes, third time.
I came to Paris just for 24 hours just to be here because this is one of the best shows, and it's fantastic.
Thank you. I know that, and we want you back every single year. Great. Jeremiah?
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I'm here to share our latest research, and I know you're going to like it so much you want to share it with other people. So thank you for being here. And the first question is, when it comes to social business, it's going back to the basics. And the question I have for you is, are you ready? Is your business ready? Yes. Well, I hear some folks saying yes, but a lot of companies are jumping in, and they're not quite ready. And I'm going to show you what's happening in the space. Now, how many of you flew here? You know, a couple of you did, right? Would you have gotten in this plane if this pilot didn't have his pilot's license? Would you go under the knife if this doctor hadn't completed their PhD? Well, you wouldn't do that inside of a store. Inside of your store, your physical store, like these geniuses here at Apple, they've been trained, they've been tested, they know exactly how to work with customers. Yet we don't see that in the social business space. In fact, we see so many companies jumping in the space, but they're not quite ready. So I'm excited. This is my latest report that I recently published, and we talked to 63 corporations, interviewed and surveyed a lot of folks, and conducted case study analysis to find out how ready are companies, and what are the most advanced companies doing right and wrong when it comes to social business. Now, let me tell you about some of the challenges. First of all, social business has only been around in a formalized way for about 3 years. This data here was from Q4 last year, so it's still the same amount of folks. So, friends, this is like 1998 or 1999 for the internet. If you're working on social right now, you are really early. And I said that last year, and I think it still holds true today. This is a very nascent space. Yet, despite this, we've seen many companies have just blown open the doors and said anybody can create their own social account. Did you know, this is a factoid, that the average number of social media accounts that a corporation has for the large corporations is 178. I'll talk about that more in a bit. 178 accounts. It seems unbelievable, but I'll show you some case examples on how that's actually coming to true. And you can see some of the channels that are most popular for these global national companies. And yet we're seeing companies actually rush in to try to integrate that, but they're not doing a good job. This is an older screenshot of the Washington Post. They tried to integrate Facebook in many different ways, 11 different ways on one single page. It's as if there wasn't a consistent experience. In fact, I actually think that if companies are linking to Facebook and Twitter from their homepage, they're actually doing themselves a disservice. I think that's what you should not do. Because think about it. Why would you spend the last 15 years of your digital marketing getting people to come to your website, your .com, and you just send them away to Facebook and Twitter? Why would you do that at that point when you've gotten them there? So we haven't seen a really robust strategy to integrate these tools and aggregate and curate and provide other types of context. And lastly, what we found is that mainstream media is increasing the frequencies of stories on what we're calling social media crises. There's a lot of brands here today at LeWeb, and many of them, and some of them have gone through this. My friends here, Pete Blackshaw just walked in. He's one of the experts that's keeping his company safe. So we're seeing that companies are wising up to this particular space. So this is what we call the spiral towards social media sanitation. In fact, if you respond to your customers on social channels, if they have problems with your products, and you respond without having a strategy, I actually think you could be hurting yourself. That's right. Responding to customers on the web can actually be hurting your brand. Why? Because aren't we just teaching them to yell at their friends to get our attention? Let me repeat that. If we respond to customers without having a real strategy in social sport, we could actually make the problem worse because we're reinforcing that behavior over and over. And this is what we call social media sanitation. Now, when we interviewed all these folks to find out how are you getting over these humps, what we found is that companies are going through this progress, which we call the social business hierarchy of needs. And I'm going to take us through this so we can be really actionable and pragmatic, and you'll get to share this. The PowerPoint slides will be on my blog. You can take all of this. So everybody know this one, right? Maslow's pyramid hierarchy of needs. And basically it says that us as humans, we all go through this journey, and you want to climb up this particular pyramid. If one of those rows breaks, you fall back down to the row where it broke. So it starts at the very basic level, physiological safety, and it moves all the way up into self-actualization. Well, what we found in this research is that companies, your client's company, are going through the same things. And we call this the social business hierarchy of needs. And there's 5 levels: foundation, safety, formation, enablement, and then finally enlightenment. That all of these companies are going through this. And I'm going to talk about each of these levels. So I will define each level, give you some examples, show you some data, and then we'll move through this. So number 1, foundation. This is just getting the very basics inside of your company, like defining why are we here, why are we doing this? What are the policies that we need in getting education programs in place? Now, speaking of education, when we polled over 140 enterprise companies, we found out that most of them did not have education programs in place. Is Richard at Dell from here? He's one of those at Dell that's going around the world to actually educate all of their, he's right over there, to educate all of his employees on how to use these tools. And we segment this by novice, see the big bulk of intermediate, around 82 folks, and then advanced. So even the most advanced companies are in the dark bars, which you want to look for. It means they strongly agree, are actually deploying these. So let's think about that. Just a fraction of the advanced companies strongly agree that they have good education programs, yet they're letting all kinds of employees use these tools. Friends, that's dangerous. Your brand's at risk, the sport's at risk. This is a lot of potential things that can go wrong. Well, here's what Dell has done in order to avoid these risks. This is called Smack Talk, or Smack You University. You can ask Richard about it. And they go around and train thousands of people in unconference style, and they have all types of resources, and even a certification certificate. Ask Richard what that looks like. I've seen it. Now, they're not the only ones. Intel has done the same. In fact, this is an internal program called Digital IQ. And with Digital IQ, you can take this online class inside of the company, and you get certified as a social media practitioner. You know, I like what Cisco's done. They have this FAQ that makes it really easy for any employee, written in plain English, on how to use these tools. Well, let's talk about the next level as we peruse through the hierarchy of needs. The next one is called safety. So once you've done the most basic things, this is about getting the right team in place. Now, if there's one thing that I'm known for in my research, it's these organizational models, and I want to quickly go through all 5. Many of you may be using these in your PowerPoints. Have you seen them before? Now, the first one is called decentralized. And this is inside of a company where anybody does anything they want in any social network. That's actually a point of high risk and a lot of inconsistent customer experience. The second one is called centralized. And centralized, when there's one small group, typically corporate communications or PR, that says, we're going to manage the entire program. The upside with this is you have a lot of control, but the downside is it may not look authentic. The third one, this is the dominant one. Over 40% of companies are in this market, this particular formation, is called hub and spoke. Now, if you're a vendor or an agency, you need to understand this because it means there's new buckets of money and enablement emerging inside of the enterprise. And a hub and spoke is a coordinated team that's acting on behalf of the company. What we're starting to see an uptick of is what we call this multiple hub and spoke. And this is when different business units can deploy these tools however they want, whenever they want, on the sides of the company. They start to build these up. Now, the last one, which is very rare, less than 2% of companies at this time, is in what we call holistic. And holistic is when the majority of your companies are using these social tools across the enterprise, but yet in a safe and consistent way. Now, what about the teams? I was just talking to Pete backstage from Nestle about the composition of a social media team. Now, if you're in the hub and spoke or the multiple hub and spoke model, we tend to see that the average composition is around 11 folks. And at the very center, you can see there's that corporate social strategist at the top of that org chart. And they tend to work with cross-functional teams. whether it be on the left-hand side, the business units, the education manager, or a set of customer-facing folks called the community managers. Now, at the bottom, you'll see the implementation team, the program team, the social media managers, analysts, and developers. So this is a very common setup that we're seeing. Now, you go back 5 years, and if somebody got on stage and said, social media will be a full-time role, you could get laughed off stage. But now we're seeing specific roles, each within the social media teams. This is an actual career. I like this one from David Armano from Enablement. They put together this workflow, which they're helping H&R Block with, a process workflow on how to deal with different things that come in, triaging from your customers. We also talked to Weber Shandwick. Most companies are not prepared for crisis, but Weber Shandwick Agency has set up this hidden type of crisis scenario where you can pretend where something's going very bad, and it's all done in a safe place. So you're doing fire drills in a private and secure area. Number 3, moving up. So you have to follow these in these different orders. The next one is called formation. And this is when you actually try to put all these pieces together and build your program. Now back to that data. 178 global social media accounts. Oh, let me just preface this. These are accounts that people use for work purposes. They stay in the company even if the employee leaves. I'm not talking about personal accounts. Now, this seems overwhelming, right? Well, here's a look at 4 seasons. Here's all the different Twitter accounts that they have. It's spread out all throughout the globe. Or you take a huge consumer electronics company like Panasonic, and you can see on their actual website that it's sorted by global, Asia, and Europe, and then it's done by product groups, and then different countries, and you can see all the channels. It's no surprise that we've seen this social media proliferation of content all across the company. You know, I like what George Colony was just saying, how we're starting to see that point of saturation. Everybody's jumping into this space, and it's only getting bigger. Now, another factoid here for you is that the average amount of employees is continuing to use these tools. In fact, we found that on average, 1 out of 300 employees are using social media. And we think that that rate will continue to go down, meaning more people will use these tools. You can see we sorted it by different sizes of companies. So 1 out of 330 employees are starting to use these tools for business purposes. All right. Climbing all up. This is the 4th phase, and this is called enablement. Now, if you're running a social media program inside of your corporation, this is an important one, because it means you have to let go and let the business units safely run their programs, but yet in a safe and trained way. And one thing that we see is most companies aren't even here yet. In fact, in this question, would you agree that your strategy is embedded across multiple functions inside of your company, from marketing, sales, support, and even within the most advanced, while about over 70% said they agree, only about 20%, less than 20% said that they strongly agree that it's spread across the company. In fact, most of the scenarios that we're seeing now are marketing, and that's not good enough. We need to see the next business unit, which is typically support. We're seeing very low adoption there, and then the product side, and then eventually supply chain. So we're very early on, and we shouldn't misconstrue social business as social marketing. Social business spans the entire company, and we're yet barely even starting to see that saturation or that penetration happening. It is so early. Now, Cisco is enabling all of their employees to use these from a self-centered hub inside of their intranet. And they encourage their employees to go there and learn about all of these different tools and the programs and education that's required. I like what Salesforce did. JP was just on stage. They've actually rewarded their top employees, called Chatterati. And as I understand it, they may be compensated differently because they've helped other employees. So they're trying to put their money where their mouth is to actually help and show that those employees that are helping others are really helping to advance the enterprise. Now, lastly, this is the highest level. And the theme around today is around solo-mo, social, location-based, and mobile. And one of the things that we haven't really talked about, I haven't heard it in the themes, is this data, all of this data, once you've gone up these different phases, helps your company to be predictive in understanding what customers want. And the opportunity here is to give customers information when they want it and how they want it. In fact, I actually think that websites, as we know them, will start to assemble on the fly based upon mobile data that we have or location data. Now, when that future state comes, websites as we know them aren't even relevant. URLs, search, directories, are they really important? If we truly have social, location, and mobile data to assemble this content when we need it, it comes to us when we want it, or before we want it. That's why we call it predictive. In fact, in this future state, advertising as we know it should go away. That's right. If social, location, and mobile data comes together and we can truly predict what customers want, ads go away. Instead, it just becomes useful information. Now, despite that, we are years away from this actually happening. In fact, most companies aren't even integrating this social data, let alone mobile or location data, into their existing customer databases. Take a look at these adoption rates. Even on the most advanced track, just a sliver of that dark blue. It is still very early on in this space. So most companies are still very far from achieving this state, which we call holistic. It's just too early. But a few precursors, some companies that are advanced in this space, we see Foursquare working with Starbucks in the Mayor program where you can receive free drinks. That's location, mobile, and social all coming together. Or Procter & Gamble, actually trying to make innovation come from anywhere. It doesn't matter have to be, whether it's from an agency, from employees, it comes from all over the place. Or Dell, empowering their actual employees to submit new ideas how to improve their products and services. So this future state, we have yet to see a lot of companies in enlightenment. Now, to close things off, remember our friends at the Genius Bar? We all want to have geniuses working for us. Yet I encourage companies to get ready inside of their company first. Many of them aren't ready, and you can't take advantage of social, location, and mobile and rise to that pyramid. So to close off, I came here to tell you about getting ready, back to basics. And let me remind you about those 5 phases and what you must do and help your clients as they progress up this chain. Number 1 is set that foundation first. Get governance in place. Let your employees understand the rules. 2, get the right team in place. Prepare for crises. Have a process plan. 3 is formalizing the right org models. We looked through those 5 different charts. And next is enable, let go. You have to let the business units run these programs on their own. It's the only way you're going to scale. Otherwise, you will fall into social media sanitation. And then finally, as you're collecting all of this data, weave it back into all of the things that you're doing and eventually build a predictive company. Well, I hope you share these slides. You can go to my blog or my Twitter account right now. I just tweeted them out. And you can share them widely under open research. I'd like to thank Christine and Andrew for their help on the research side, and I hope that you climb the social business hierarchy of needs. Thank you so much. I'm Jeremiah.
That was incredible, Jeremiah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Louis.
It's only an 11-hour flight after all, right?
It's totally worth it. Great
We're
crowd.
so glad to have you share with us, and you're really a visionary and one of the coolest guys I know in enterprise.
Hey, thank you.
At Owyang, right?
Yeah.
On Twitter.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, safe flight. You're jumping in your private jet is waiting for you, right?
I'm hoping to get a private jet someday. Thanks, Louis.
Yeah, you'll give me a ride. Thank you so much, Jeremiah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, all of you. So if you are in the room, that's lunchtime, and I hope you appreciate it. If you are outside of the room, we will be back at 2:30 Paris time with a magician, with Marco Tempest, who is going to prepare with the crew here, and that's one of the most amazing sessions I have seen. I've discovered Marco in Davos at the World Economic Forum. I was blown away. So be here at 2:30, and I hope you enjoy the morning. Thank you.